Hello, I'm Matt Smith. I'm the publicity chair and webmaster for the Portland chapter of the American Guild of Organists, and I'm with Dr. Pamela Decker. She's the professor of organ composition and theory at the University of Arizona. She received her DMA from Stanford University, and she was a recipient as a Fulbright scholar to study organ and composition in Lübeck, Germany. She's a concert organist and has performed around the world, including many recitals at AGO gatherings and conventions. She has multiple CDs under the Gothic label, and we are very excited that she will be performing at the AGO West Regional Convention on July 13th at 5 p.m. at First United Methodist Church. Her concert is entitled A Kaleidoscope of Song and Dance, and she will be performing the world premiere of her own composition entitled Passacaglia Dance Variations, and she'll be accompanied by dancers from the Oregon Ballet Theater. So we're very happy to have you with us today, Professor Decker. Thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have had a bicoastal experience with my upbringing and my study and work in that. Well, initially, I was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, but 5 months later, my parents took me to San Francisco. We had about 7 years in San Francisco. And then about another 6 or 7 in Washington, D.C. Both cities, of course, are characterized by the term that we often use, melting pot. So I have a really international and multicultural background. And of course, I now have been teaching for 25 years at the University of Arizona, Tucson.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of the details about your distinguished career and your unique upbringing. I'm also a native San Franciscan, so it's always nice to meet another person from the Bay Area. Let's move on to discuss your program, which will be performing at First United Methodist Church on July 13th at 5 p.m. It's entitled A Kaleidoscope of Song and Dance. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the program and what the audience can expect.
The program is, of course, based on the idea of dance and how dance intersects with music and how these two arts support and nurture each other and arise from one another. Dance rhythm has been with music for centuries. And much of the output of J.S. Bach is dance related in one way or another. English suites, French suites, even fugues, and then with composers throughout, Renaissance, the Baroque period, all periods in Western music. Dance is allied with music in so many ways. My husband and I collect kaleidoscopes. And the largest kaleidoscope shop in the world is in Jerome, Arizona, up in the mountains. And if you've ever looked in a kaleidoscope, you know that there are mirrors that are refracted in certain ways to produce different types of images. To me, there is a bit of an intersection there with the idea of having different colors, different influences, and different backgrounds contributing to the materials for a piece that go into a harmonic language or a melodic language. Mm-hmm.
You'll be, you mentioned a world premiere of your composition, Passacaglia and Dance Variations, which will be performed at the your program, A Kaleidoscope of Song and Dance at First United Methodist Church in Portland on July 13th at 5 p.m. And of course, it's part of the AGO West Regional Convention, and the theme of the convention is Let's Dance. And you'll be performing your world premiere piece, Passacaglia and Dance Variations, and simultaneously dancers from the Oregon Ballet Theater will be performing choreography by Isaquel Perez Rivera. And I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about what it's like to compose, knowing that there'll be live dancers performing with you, and if that has any influence on your compositional technique.
Well, It does, because the dances all have inherent characteristics. You know, they have traits that tend to go with them. For instance, the Pasacalla is a triple meter type of phenomenon, and interestingly enough, uh, there are meter changes and shifting accents uh, in the work. It is a continuous 10 to 11 minute work with a series of six dances um, constructed on sort of a scaffolding of a passacaglia, which is a set of variations on a ground bass. Well, there is a bass theme, which is actually derived from the musical spelling of the word Portland. The dances, in order of appearance in my new work, um, are, of course, the passacaglia is overarching, and if you had a Venn diagram, you would have the very large circle with everything else contained within it. Then the saraband appears first, followed by tango, and then a waltz, which is actually a Brazilian valsa, rondena, and fandango. Now, when you talk about tango and you think about uh, tango, and then you think about the pipe organ, you might think that those two items would not inherently have a lot to do with each other. But I can certainly explain something about that. If you look into the history of the tango, there are certainly influences that came over to South America from Africa. And in fact, if you look hard enough, you can find a relationship between tango and ragtime, and some sharing of cultural backgrounds and histories and influences. But interestingly, uh, the instrument that was uh, a performance vehicle or a performance instrument for the composer Astor Piazzolla was the bandoneon. And this is a sort of an accordion type of thing, but a very serious concert instrument. But the bandoneon was invented by Heinrich Bond in Germany in 1854 as an instrument for churches where there were not sufficient financial resources to afford a pipe organ. So the bandoneon was invented to be a liturgical instrument in church. Well, it made its way over the course of history to South America, and ended up in Argentina. And there it became an instrument where, whether it played solo or as part of a bandoneon ensemble or a tango ensemble, um, it became associated with a different type of house, and it wasn't a house of worship. So it was a house perhaps intersecting with what people sometimes call the oldest profession in the world. And I think it's possible that it isn't widely known that the instrument used by the tangueros in South America was actually invented by a German, probably for the Lutheran Church. There's no trouble with having tangos in church because Bach certainly played scores of dance pieces in church, no pun intended. But it's all a history uh, that certainly feeds itself very well.
I was unaware of the hidden connection between the organ and the tango, so thank you very much for sharing that detail as well as all the other information about your performance. on July 13th at 5 o'clock in the evening at First United Methodist Church. It's entitled A Kaleidoscope of Song and Dance, and it'll be performed in conjunction with dancers from the Oregon Ballet Theater, choreographed by Isabel Perez Rivera. And it's part of the AGO West Regional Convention from July 10th to 13th. Professor Decker, thank you so much for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you this summer at the convention.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor to do the interview.